The small town of Maplewood had always been quiet, its streets lined with cozy homes, children playing in front yards and neighbors exchanging pleasantries. In this peaceful setting, 16-year-old Tyler Johnson, with his tousled brown hair and dark, brooding eyes, had always blended in, that is, until something started to change. At first it was subtle. Tyler, once a cheerful and outgoing teen, began to withdraw. He sat at the back of his high school classes, never engaging with his friends, barely participating in discussions. His grades slipped, and his eyes, once full of life, now looked distant, as though the spark had been snuffed out. No one seemed to notice, not even his teachers. Everyone thought it was just a phase, something that teenagers go through. But Tyler's behavior grew increasingly disturbing. He stopped showing up to class on time, his uniform unkempt, his face gaunt with exhaustion. At lunch, he would sit alone, his hands trembling, staring at nothing, as if trapped in a world of his own. There was something in the air around him, a heaviness that no one could place. But no one thought to speak up. Then, one rainy afternoon during a typical biology class, the tension reached a breaking point. Tyler, who had been silent for the entire period, suddenly stood up and stormed out of the room, knocking his chair over in the process. His teacher, Mrs. Harris, a woman known for her nurturing nature, watched him leave with a furrowed brow. Something didn't feel right. She had noticed the shift in Tyler's behavior over the past few weeks, but today it was different. His eyes, once so full of hope, were now cold and empty, and his steps were heavy with a burden that no teenager should carry. After class, Mrs. Harris made the decision to follow him, a decision that would change the course of his life. She found him sitting in the school courtyard, drenched by the rain, his head buried in his arms. His shoulders shook with quiet sobs. Mrs. Harris, heart heavy with concern, sat beside him, her voice soft but firm. "Tyler, what's going on?" she asked, her eyes full of compassion. For a long moment Tyler didn't respond. But then something inside him broke. He looked up, tears streaming down his face, and whispered, "I'm scared. I don't know what's happening to me. I feel lost." And that's when it all came out. The truth no one had seen. Tyler's home life had been falling apart for months. His parents, once loving and supportive, had turned cold and distant. His father, struggling with alcohol addiction, had become increasingly volatile. Tyler had been caught in the crossfire of angry outbursts, his mother retreating into her own world of silence, unable to protect him. At night, the sound of his father's drunken rages filled the house, leaving Tyler terrified and alone. He had been too afraid to tell anyone, too ashamed to admit that the nightmare he was living was real. His behavior, the quiet withdrawal, the reckless attitude, it was all a cry for help. But no one had noticed, no one had thought to ask. Mrs. Harris listened, her heart breaking with every word. She took Tyler's hand in hers, her grip firm and steady. "We're going to get you the help you need," she said, her voice full of determination. "You don't have to carry this alone anymore." In the following weeks, Tyler was placed in a safe environment, away from the chaos of his home. With counseling and support, he began to heal, though the road ahead would not be easy. His story became a turning point for the entire community. People began to realize how easily they could miss the signs of someone in need, how easy it was to overlook the quiet pleas for help. Tyler's transformation didn't happen overnight, but with the support of people like Mrs. Harris, he found his way back. He started attending therapy, reconnected with his friends, and slowly began to rediscover his love for life. His teachers and classmates, once indifferent to his struggles, now rallied behind him, creating a support system that made all the difference. This was a story of a troubled teen who went unnoticed until someone finally spoke up. It was a story about the power of compassion, the importance of paying attention, and the undeniable truth that sometimes, the smallest gestures, a kind word, a quiet question, a gentle intervention, can save a life. In the end, Tyler learned that he was not alone, and that no one has to suffer in silence. All it takes is one person to notice, to care, to make a difference. Sometimes that person is you.